Nick, how's them levels going? Did you actually do the is last time we talked in our pre-intro. You used your Patreon dollars for paperweights. Have you? Are you laying down that clean recording now?
Look, okay. The microphone is set up with the shield.
Okay.
Is the stand here? Is it downstairs in the box still?
Is it? Hold on. Let me. Hold on. What's the guy from Family Feud?
Steve Harvey.
Survey says no. It's not here. It's not here.
It is indeed not here. How did you know?
Nicholas. Man,
you're so wise.
So wise with the hesitation and intuition and etc. Nick, I swear, I will.
I'm sorry.
I will take this from your cut of our $No if you do not unbox this gosh dang thing. I'll tell you what though, Nick, when we recorded our Patreon podcast, did you also have your shield? Is this a thing that you had?
Yeah.
I don't know what you did differently other than have the shield. But if it was just that prevented me from having to edit out a single mouse click. Maybe your ADHD was like off that day.
Okay, so that is true, right? Like my ADHD could have just been off, but I wanna let you know something, Jeff.
Okay.
Every single time we record, I remember that I have a silent mouse partway through the recording.
Yeah, a good dadgum year and a half ago. Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
There's so many good secrets to recording a good podcast. That's one of them, is remember that you have the things.
Yep.
To do it.
I remembered today, but these last 2 weeks are the first time it's only been 2 years. So I'm pretty sure any day now I'll remember the next thing you need me to remember.
I'm so glad that our listeners' ears and my time are worth. I'm glad. If you could find somebody maybe we could spend like $20 or something per recording to fan you with a palm leaf while you're recording. I'll be happy to edit that out for you just for your comfort and happiness.
I want you to know you are shaming me for a condition, okay? That condition is being an idiot.
Oh man, HR is going to be down my throat. All right, let's record a podcast. Welcome to the year we started a podcast. It's a podcast born phoenix-like from the ashes and HR issues of last year's podcast. I am your co-host, Jeff.
I am the manager of HR, and I am deeply disappointed.
I think if we switch podcasts early and often enough, I don't think that I'm legally liable for anything I or you say. So I think we're good. Nick. That
adds up.
Ready? Are you ready for this?
Damn.
This is our podcast where we talk about some... Oh, man, I missed... Gosh, dang it. This is not what I wanted to do. This is our podcast where a couple of friends have a continent apart that come together and talk about some of the things that are fun and interesting to us and also some secrets. Okay. And nothing about ooze because why have we focused so much on the ooze, Nick? There's secrets.
It's a really good point.
Real hard on the ooze this the first quarter of Time of Sap Inc.
Yeah, you're right. I regret the emphasis on the ooze. I regret for our listeners.
I'm not so sure that you should be the one. I mean, I guess you can regret things that other people do. I take responsibility.
How do you focus on a secret? You know what I mean? Like, it's not very secretive if you're constantly talking about a secret.
I don't think it's a thing that you have to focus on, though. Like, I had a big focus on the ooze part, right?
Right.
But I think that we can just have secrets be part of it. It doesn't have to be a focus. It can just be a part of it. And that sounds a lot less gross when I do it in the intro, if I can work in secrets. Like, we're secret agent men.
Let's try this for the next couple podcasts. I'll work in secret, you work in ooze, okay? And we'll see how it goes.
But Nick, I feel like I came to the light side. You're like, okay. Okay, I see the light side exists. I'll take that one. You go back to your corner. And we'll see who wins.
I'll be light side host, you be dark side host.
And we'll see what HR has to say about it when we're done.
Well, as head of HR, I mean, I have a lot to say about your overemphasis on ooze. It's kind of off-putting.
Goodness gracious.
Hostile workplace environment.
Man.
Something.
Man. We're getting sued by our listeners the more we talk. Okay. Nick, I have a good story. It's been a while since I've had a good, proper Jeff story for just like the woes of house ownership and willingness to do ridiculous things regardless of all the things. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a hard time not texting you about this, Nick, because by golly, if I have had anybody's phone number who I've texted in the last 15 days, it would be a miracle. It would be quite the secret that I would be keeping from you if I had not shared this story. Nick, I would now like to reveal this secret to you, okay?
Let me in.
So
let me in your world.
Okay. I've had a pretty crazy work time these past couple weeks, and my wife, I can't do that. I have to cut it out every time I do it. My wife,
okay. Shouldn't do
shut
it.
up, you stupid piece of crap. Okay.
Comedy is all about timing, and my timing is mostly when you start talking is when my time. That's my comedic cue. Okay.
You know what? I'm gonna leave it all in just to know, let everyone know how stupid we actually are. Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, my partner and I were talking on the telephone in the middle of the day while I was at work, which was something around the lines of, there is something in our ceiling. Please call me back, because I ignored a phone call because I was in the middle of a meeting. Okay. Before we just I guess I have some spoilers in the show notes. Man, I could have done better with the show notes. Okay. So my partner and I continued talking via text, and I called her, and I kind of got a feel for what was happening, which was a lot of banging around in our basement ceiling, which is different than the other ceiling. And I was like, I have no idea what that could possibly be. I've been pretty diligent as a homeowner as far as making sure that there's not, a huge doggy door for possums or whatever to come into. We have a drop ceiling in our basement, if this doesn't make sense. Are you aware of what a drop ceiling is? You Californian person, you?
Let's of course I do, but why don't you explain it for our listeners?
Okay. So
I'm an adult, so I know what it is.
I
was going to ask you.
No, honestly, as I was saying that, I realized not everybody has basements. So what you have is your main floor, which you walk in from the outside and you go into your house. I feel like you're probably at least familiar with walking into a house.
Done that once or twice.
Okay. Underneath,
well, you say that, Jeff. In California, houses are pretty hard to come by. Okay, most of us live in.
They are hard to come by. It's a whole other topic.
Most of us live in a converted walk-in closet. Okay, most of us.
Oh gosh, that's not where I was going with that, but I love it. Yes. All right. So imagine you had a really big closet, and you would walk in from the street level, and underneath that there's a basement. Okay. But they're that floor level that can either go straight to basement with only a little bit of space, call it 6 inches, and there's sheetrock underneath in the basement, and it gives you the highest basement ceilings possible, right?
Okay.
You can also have a drop ceiling, which is with the removable tiles in the basement, which is usually a little bit farther down. Ours is actually really it's right up against the joists that run across our main level floor. So there's not actually any loss as far as basement height, but you can still get in there in case you have a leak of some sort or a vermin from the outdoors inside or whatever.
Okay.
You can remove one of the panels to look up in there and see what's all going on. Which actually, as an IT person,
it's still how office buildings will have.
Oh yes, sorry, I should have started with that. Yes, the same way that all office buildings are with their drop ceiling tile things, and every ninth one is a fluorescent light. Except for that's not how it is in our house. But
that's fair. I understand why you didn't go with the fluorescent light thing. You didn't want to hate your life while you were in the basement the way you wanted to hate your life when you were at work. I got
right. Yeah. Try to keep the basement as unhospital adjacent as possible.
There you go. Fair.
Okay. So wife calls me and is like, hey, in our basement ceiling that's a lot like a hospital except for without the fluorescent lights, there is a large animal or something that is running around, which, Nick, I'm not sure. Again, you don't live here in Kansas, but an entry point that is into the ceiling of a basement definitionally is a challenge, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, I feel like that as the first place that you get into, like, that's pretty tough, okay? So I told my wife, like, okay, I'm finishing up this meeting, and I'll tell you what, I was in a quote meeting. I was actually at lunch with work people, so kind of a work person, I should say. So kind of a meeting. I probably could have left right away, but I didn't even know, like, what would I even do? Like, I'm no possum, like, catcher.
Right.
Like, that's not my jam. Like, what am I gonna do?
You could call me. I am a possum catcher, but
right. But like, there's just the flights and like just the time. Like that feels like a lot. And I hate to waste all of our Patreon dollars on that. Whenever it's like can't even get the stand out of the base or downstairs. So, anyways. So I get off the phone because I just don't even know what to do. And like as soon as I get off the phone, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna call animal control. And so the first thing I do, I'm like, okay, I gotta call animal control. I'm gonna call animal control. How do you call animal control? So I just Googled animal control, and then my county name, and then I called the first number on there. Before I explain how that went, do you like if you Mr. California, if you called animal control, like you Googled animal control and you called the first number on Google, like what would you expect to find, like reasonably so? Anyway,
so like I've never fully understood if there's like different kinds of animal control for like like a wild coyote that you need like chased off that's like violent versus like dude.
I'll tell you, Nick, there's not time to figure out. Because wife is at home trying to work from home, and she's called you and said, "Disaster in the ceiling." Animal.
Disaster in the ceiling. Right. Well, that's like I can picture. I know where this is going, but like because of the titles, unfortunately. But like if it was like if I thought there was like a possum trapped in my walls or something and like banging around in there or whatever, I know it's above your ceiling tiles, but like I don't know, like. I would not know if the guy that I was talking to would think that I'm a dope who like is wasting his time on small potatoes, or if I would be like, "Yep, I'm the possum catcher with the possum catcher 3000 in the truck. If it's a Southern California possum, or do you got one of them desert possums? You know what I mean? Like I don't know if he's gonna like want more information from me. I don't know if he's gonna think I'm wasting his time. I have no idea what I'm getting from an animal control guy.
Well, I certainly have never called animal control either.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's where my brain would be at. Is like I don't know what the hell what is this conversation supposed to be like? I don't know.
So I'll tell you. So I called the first number on Google, and so like again, like I don't really know what this is. I don't really know what the expectation is. I have no idea what sort of SLAs there are with like animal removal from basement ceiling. So I call the first number. It has a couple good like reviews on Google, so that's fine. I call it, and a gentleman answers, "Hello," to which, like, when you call a place, you're like, okay, I'm so clueless. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into, but there's an animal in my attic or in my basement ceiling. And then I call the top thing on Google, and the person answers with "hello" with no like, "Hi, this is." Like,
what do you want?
Like it was like "hello." I'm like, "Hello." And it's like I froze.
This is what I'm talking about, dude.
Big time.
Like, and this is what I'm talking about. It's like I feel like everybody else, every public facing job in the world, the expectation when you speak to somebody who's public facing is that you know what they're supposed to offer you and like what's normal for them. That's what I'm talking about. Like I feel like I would call and they'd like laugh at me like, "We don't deal with possums, you idiot. What kind of idiot thinks we deal with possums? You're wasting your life."
Like, my biggest thing was like, because like I'm like I don't really like the whole social anxiety thing, and like I don't really like calling people cold, especially like to do things on the phone. Like that's not really my jam. Like, oh my gosh, I'm like the most stereotypical millennial when it comes to like, if there's a way that I can solve this without talking to a person, I would love that. Thank you. And
I just want to say real quick for our listeners, we said at the top that this is a show about things that are fun and interesting to us. Actually, this is a therapy session where Jeff and I justify and explain our social anxieties. And I really appreciate you all for being here. I feel like this is a very safe space, and I feel very comfortable with all of you. And I really appreciate all of your patience and kindness. And Also, please continue because this is very cathartic for me.
No, I'm really happy to be here for you and the people, and also for myself a little bit.
By subjecting yourself to,
we have to work through these things.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just part of the recovery. So here's the thing, Nick. I don't like making calls. Like, I would pay. I don't even know what the dollar amount is, but if I could never have to ever call people cold to like figure out something that I have no idea what I'm actually trying to even get out of the situation, like it's a big number. Okay. So I call a guy on Google. He says hello. I answer hello. So like we're like 0.2 out of 10 so far. And he says hello again. So at this point, I feel like I need to justify my calling of this person. And so I said, so I saw this number. We have, and like, here's what I should have said. I called this number because it showed up on Google under animal control. Instead, what I did was proceeded to explain in way too much detail. Hey, so I'm not actually at home yet, but my wife is she's at home, and she works from home, and we have this house, the few different. I'm not exactly sure how this would happen, but there's something
those, like,
in the ceiling of our basement. Is there something that you can help us with?
We sleep in it sometimes, and it's good for us to be able to. And we're hoping.
And I really don't know what to do, and also please help. and then he very graciously listened to my whole entire explanation.
And then he said, "Dude, this is Domino's."
He's like, I actually stopped doing that a while ago. I'm like, all right,
man.
Okay, bye. Okay, bye. I've never bye hung up so fast in my entire life.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Jeff, I'm so sorry. Dude, that's not right. It can't be like some guy who ran. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be a business. What the heck? And then also, Google's got to know if the business is shut down. Like, come on.
Yeah. Part of me wants to just like leave it up for the growth of the other people like me, because there's nothing better than growing in your social anxiety and calling people than having that be during the time that your wife is at home and the drop ceiling now has an animal inside of it.
It's also really good because the guy left animal control to be a therapist, and now he gets to listen to people work out their social anxieties on the phone. Well, I can give him a call next. I can out awkward you. That way, like, by comparison, you won't seem so weird because I can certainly
yes, thank you.
try.
Yes, if the moving average can just move down a bit, that really helps me out a bit, and I really appreciate that.
No problem.
Okay, so we got a lot of space to cover here. We've spent a lot of time, but I think it's been a good time. A lot of therapy here. Okay, so we then had no better solution than when I started my little awkward adventure. I called the county that my house is in, got a person who thankfully answered with like not just hello, which was a great improvement, let me tell you. But was like, this is not like our thing that we deal with, but I do have a phone number for you to call that is the people that deal with this. And so she
you don't need animal control, you need avian control.
She dug up the number and gave me the number. I'm like, all right, thank you. I'll go call this person now. I call this person, goes to a voicemail immediately, like not even rings, just goes to voicemail. I'm like, well, I haven't left. I've literally gone on this podcast to say I'm so anti-voicemail. Like, well, let me dust off this skill. I am an idiot. That here's my number. Please call me back. So I left like the details that I felt like were relevant that you would do in a voicemail. Again, I feel like this is the sort of thing that could be an email or something like that. Or honestly, just like, please call me back. All right, love you. Bye.
I hope you did tell him I love you. Bye.
Lord knows I very well may have. So I leave my message. I feel very hopeless at this point. Like the one person I called was just some rando guy on the internet who no longer does the thing. The next one was a little bit more official, but ultimately just also landed in a single person's voicemail box. And then I called. We actually have some people that come out and do like pest control, like mice and spiders and etc. We live kind of close to a field, and so it's like really nice to have, not mice and spiders in your house. And so they've done a fantastic job. That didn't seem like to be necessarily exactly in the purview of thing is in my house in the ceiling of basement. But like at this point, I have nobody like planning to come, so I might as well give them a call. So I finished my lunch work thing, and I'm like, I just gotta go home. Like my poor wife has no idea what's going on, freaking out. And I call, like as I'm getting ready to leave, I call them, and they're like, I think we might be able to do that. We'll call you back. I'm like, that's great. I didn't have to leave any weird voicemails. That's great. Please just let me know. And honestly, if not, just don't call me back. That's also fine. I can't talk to anybody else. Like only positive vibes at this point.
We are only doing positive vibes from here on out.
I had texted, the hilarious thing was I had texted my wife to ask like, hey, what about Patton, who is the people that do our pest control? Like, have you asked them? And she's like, she called them, or she texted me and said that she had called them and that they can't do anything. So I'm like, okay, great. Thanks. Thank you. This is great news.
Good stuff. That's what you like to hear.
But then as I was driving home, they called me back and they're like, hey, we can be there in like 10 minutes. I'm like, frick yeah, dude. Like wherever I don't even care how much I have to pay you, please. Yes. And so they came out and they showed up like literally like probably 30 seconds after I pulled into the house. And I had gone downstairs to like see if I could hear this crazy vermin. And I could hear some things. So like there's definitely a thing here. And I think it sounds a little bit like a bird, which is a little bit comforting, honestly. And then I go back upstairs and I find my savior that is the pest control guy. And he's like, all right, let's go find this thing. And so we go downstairs and we walk back into the storage room. And this time you can see the bird. So this is a bird in our house, Nick, in our basement ceiling. And I guess, again, to explain to people who don't have a drop ceiling or live in Kansas or my specific house, in our storage room, you can actually see into that like little middle area, like where the ceiling of the basement is below the floor of the main level. So like I can see all these little areas and there's a bird in there. Okay. So he's like, all right, it's a bird. And he's like, do you have a BB gun? And I'm like, no, I don't have a BB gun. And he's like,
it seems like a cruel solution anyway.
It escalated quickly. But in all fairness, he did show up in like 10 minutes. So what can I say? So he's like, okay, well, I don't really know how to catch a bird. He's like super nice. Don't get me wrong. Super, super nice. But he's like, I don't know. Like, we can't just like crawl across your ceiling tiles that like hold like 0.2 pounds. Like, that's not a thing that we can do. And I don't have any, blackbird calls. So he's like, it's a bird. At least you know that. And it is what it is.
Well, you don't have any blackbird calls?
I did not. No. I mean, they're all old and probably like the blackbirds of the youth of this day.
Yep.
They're old. They're more on the new crowd. So anyways, so guy came, found the blackbird. And he's like, all right, I can't get the blackbird out because not really our thing that we do. Like we do the mice and the spiders. But he's like, let me at least go outside and look around your house to like find how this happened. He found a spot. Didn't really make a lot of sense. I'm just going to kind of cut that story short a little bit. He thought he found it. And then he's like, all right, here's where I think it is. I think if you cover that up, I think you'll be good to go. And then he left. And then like 30 seconds later, after he had gone to his car, he got out of his car. He's like, you know what? I'm kind of slow today. And I'm pretty tall and I'm pretty sure I could help you a lot better than she could. And like gesturing toward my wife. And like, cause this guy is like 6'10". So like, sure enough, like you're wrong. It's like, if you want, like, I'd be down. Like, I don't really like, I can't really charge you anything for this, but I'd be happy to like hang out, try to scare this bird out of your house. Well actually,
dude, that's really nice of him.
No, it's super nice.
It's like not a service that they offer, not like inside the scope of what they do. And yet, but sorry.
I will say, he did not offer to scare the bird out of our house. this guy, as a pest termination employee, was certainly he was willing to terminate the problem, not necessarily in the most humane way, but like. For me, a few different. I mean, I have gone hunting in my life, but like if I didn't have to kill a random bird in my house, like I wouldn't feel like super sad if I could just like let it go. Like that would probably make me a little happy. Like I'm cool with that. Obviously. Oh, and the other thing is too, like he came back and told us, he's like, hey, also like our local zoo is closed because of the bird flu that's going around. I'm like, well, Frank, like, yeah, I guess we probably don't want this bird in our house. So he came back, my giant 6'10" pest control guy, who was like super nice and was like, yeah, I've just figured, my fiance wouldn't be super excited about trying to chase a bird or trying to get a bird out of our house. Again, be very careful to not say that this bird was going to live through this process. But he was happy to help me not be just, the guy chasing the bird out or whatever out of the house. So anyways, he explained to me, this is a little graphic. He explained to me like, okay, if you catch a bird with one of our, so we both had towels. He's like, if you catch a bird with a towel, here's how you ball it up and here's how you make it as quick and painless as possible. And then I'm like, okay, here's a broom. Here's how you try to get it out of this room. And so we both went downstairs with towels and brooms in hand. Probably only like 2 minutes. Like the bird came out, flew around a little bit. Like I had a big flashlight too to like kind of. My idea was like I'm gonna try to like scare him out, or I sort of show him the way. Like here's how you get out of this room. Because once he gets into the main house, like there's only a couple ways this ends. Anyways. So the bird, we finally got him to fly out of our storage room, which means no longer can he be stuck in our drop ceiling. And he immediately flies to our window, which is closed, but it has blinds, and he gets stuck. And pest control guy like runs over there, and I'm like, hold on. Like before you end this poor bird's life, I'm like, hold on, I can open the window on the other side. And I'm like, so I sprint upstairs and I run outside and I run back downstairs into our backyard, and I'm like, oh please, just let one of these windows be open. Like unlocked, so I can just slide it open from the outside, because like there's no way he's gonna be willing to like wait and like try to contain the bird and also unlock the window and slide it open without the blinds on his side. 100%. And so like I try the first side and it's locked. I'm like, dadgummit. And I try the other side and it's unlocked, and this bird immediately flies out. I'm like, bird, you owe me so much. You are the luckiest stupid bird I've ever met.
Yes, 100%.
I loved it, and I'm glad the bird's good. I'm glad the bird's alive. I'm glad you had the random 6'10" pest guy, like the most useful pest guy you could have in this circumstance, and also that he was willing to stay with you and everything, and also that he didn't kill the bird.
Yeah. I tell you though, he would have.
Yeah,
100%.
No, I don't blame him, but also like, oh.
Right, because he like talked. I mean, he was talking about it like. He was talking all the things that he's done over the years and just all his stories, and like, yeah, sure, I get why it isn't a big deal for you, but like this bird is in my house, and like I don't know, it just I feel bad.
I think there's like a level of probably like desensitization that like I can't blame him for having as a pest guy, you know what I mean? But also like, yo, I'm not desensitized. Leave the bird didn't do anything. Come on.
All right, I want to, while we're talking about birds.
We're continuing on the bird theme. I love it.
Not actual birds, though, Nick. We're talking about virtual birds. So we've talked about VR things, yes. Have you done any at all VR stuff of any note of the past, I don't know, since we've talked about it last, which probably...
I haven't touched a VR headset. I've messed around with a VR headset a little bit like a year ago-ish, but not at all recently, not since the last time we talked about it now.
I got a recommendation to play VR Angry Birds, which sounds like a stupid thing.
It does, but like I trust VR for some reason.
Yeah, and Nick, I'll tell you, it was the first thing that I was like, man, this made me feel the same way on this platform that I felt back when original Angry Birds came out for the iPhone. back in the day. Like, it felt so novel and fun. And Angry Birds, like, blew up the whole, like, iPhone gaming landscape. And like, it was so easy and intuitive and fun, and they add different elements that are obviously VR elements of, like, being able to, like, attack the towers from different angles and all kinds of different ways to make that sort of puzzle stuff fun. And it was just like, man, I tell ya, dude, like, when they, like, continue to, like, revolutionize what this is and, like, somebody gets it right with a new genre of something, like, the first thing that jumped to mind was, like, man, the first people that do, like, a real proper, like, VR MMO, like, oh my gosh, like a real good, proper MMO.
Can I tell you that I listened to two, actually, I believe, audiobooks about a VR MMO? Like, there's a subgenre that my friend wants me to read more of, and I'm not going to, but I listened to a couple of short audiobooks that is, like, it's a fantasy / sci-fi genre that is basically just, like, instead of a fantastical situation, imagine people in a fantastical game, right? And so it was just people in a VR MMO, and, like, it was, like, just super fun. And also, you are completely right. That is what I want from VR. Is, like, I want, like, I want the best combination of all best aspects of MMOs, but also I want to be there and see people and see all the crazy spells and everything.
I just think that perspective thing, like the idea of going into a boss fight with 10 other people or 9 other people, and, like, you are you standing in your spot and you move around to go to the other places that are physically also just around. Like, if somebody pulls that off, I mean, Nick, I can't even tell you how cool that would be. And, like, I'm probably underselling it in my own mind. Like, the example of stupid Angry Birds being a thing that, like, oh my gosh, I just got sucked into beating this stupid thing in 3 hours because me and my son were talking about different games we could play, and then he got distracted and I literally just played VR for a few hours. Like, that was so good. That was so much fun. And it felt like, oh my gosh, this is just a stupid iPhone game that I literally think is one of my most fun VR experiences. And
that's awesome.
Imagine that with something that actually hits on some of the other, more immersive, and I hate to say it, but also addictive, etc. Video game genres.
Addictive can be good, right? Like, I mean, it's not usually, but addictive can be good. Like, it could be, or at least with video games, when people talk about things being addictive, like, when I consider, like, my favorite games that I've ever played addictive, I mean, like, you never have to get bored of it. You're just like, yeah, I can just do this. This is so good. I can just do this forever. Like, why not? Why would I not stop doing this? Like, so I know that, like, mobile apps are usually not that. It's just, like, trying to give you the tiniest little baby dopamine hit of all time. But addictive's not all bad. If you gave me an awesome VR game that was, like, addictive, like, darn, I guess I will just love this game too much.
Addictive in a good way. Addictive that is not exploitative. Like, because that is the problem with a lot of, like, microtransaction addiction for that sort of, like, mobile game or etc. But
which is probably a fine line to walk and yada yada, and, hard to do. And I want to be critical of games. I'm not trying to, or I want to be critical-ish of games. I want to be critically aware of games. And anyways, continue.
I just really wanted to mention, like, it's been a thing that I've thought about for a long time, but, like, just to feel so brought into it unexpectedly on a recommendation that honestly, like, wasn't a person that I, like, get video game recommendations from often / actually ever. And to have that be something like, holy cow, that was amazing. Nick, you've said that anyway, that was something that I was just like, man, there's so much potential here. Like,
there really is.
There really is.
There really is. I think VR is, like, it doesn't, to me, feel like it's that close. Unfortunately, I feel like we have to get over some of, like, the spatial limitations, and I think we got to make hardware more accessible. And I don't think hardware, like, I'm not just saying this because I'm on an anti-Facebook crusade in the world or anything, but, like, I don't think, like, Oculus Rift is going to be, I don't think, like, the games that Facebook and Oculus like to push are the kinds of games that are going to make it stick. And what I mean by that is, like Beat Saber is cool, right? But nobody sat around playing, like, nobody said, oh, you gotta get a PlayStation because Rock Band's amazing. Like, you get into PlayStation because of, like, the huge array of shooters and RPGs, depending on, like, who you are. And, like, one title in, like, a niche genre that hasn't been that successful on a larger scale isn't going to draw people to VR long term. I think you've got to get, like you said, like MMOs or competitive online games like, you got to make competitive online titles, whether it's PvE or PvP, or really compelling story-focused single-player games, which I think is probably less likely even in a way.
I think that's probably less likely to change the entire landscape just because that is an experience. But generally speaking, you're going to be done with that experience after, 20 hours or whatever. Or 10 hours.
The nice thing with the competitive online thing is that they are very, very, very,
by definition, replayable. And and very deep with, like, how good you can get at it, too.
Yes.
So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. But, like, it was interesting to see. It was the first time that I've played a VR, because, like, I've played a good number of VR games now. And I always have a good time based on the novelty of the experience, almost more than how actually fun it is. And the playing, it sounds so stupid and superficial, but, like, playing a puzzle game that has been a part of, like, just generally how mobile games have, like, been shaped since literally, I think, 2008. I don't know what the actual date is.
Yep.
But, like, since the iPhone. And to see that reinvented and be as fun as it was, I just, man, if this, whoever hits on this first it's gonna be big. Like, it really is.
I completely agree. I think the potential is there. I don't think it's a gimmick at all. And I guess, like, to kind of narrow in on what like, we were both kind of dancing around, but, like, what I was trying to get at, and my brain couldn't, like, compute it well, is, like, consoles drew really, really big numbers because of games like Halo and Modern Warfare, Call of Duty, and all that stuff. And Nintendo drew tons of stuff because of titles like Super Smash Brothers and Mario. And PCs drew tons of people because of things like Doom and Counter-Strike and World of Warcraft. And you gotta have something like that for VR, and when it hits, I am completely with you. Like, I think it'll be, like, insane. If you gave us, like, a modern day World of Warcraft-esque experience, but, like, with a VR, like, you've just got every nerd in the world just like freaking salivating. Like, the 12 million people that ever played World of Warcraft, like, a lot of them are probably 45-year-olds now that have never or not touched their their PC in, like, 10 years. They just, go to their office job and, like, come home, and they're like, oh damn, I mean, I would. Yeah.
My opinion, as much as I don't want it to be true, I actually think the answer is going to be something completely new. Like, I don't think it's going to be a nostalgia hit. It will be a thing.
I don't mean World of Warcraft literally. I mean just like a World of Warcraft clone. Okay. Blizzard's insane. Blizzard's weird now. I don't know.
Super problematic in a number of ways. Not super relevant to the conversation, but yeah.
No, but like I also
probably not going to be a Blizzard owned IP. Likely. Who knows though?
You never know.
Nick, you've sent me this thing. Hold on.
Watch it. My phone blew up all at once. I'm sorry. I try to not be distracted, but
Oh, I assume they went on to win.
They did.
Oh man. I want to see his post game so much now.
I know, right? Oh my god, that's a good point. Oh my god,
man! If this makes to the cut, we just watched Joel Embiid hit a 3, or was it a 3 or a long 2?
It's a 3. It's a 3. A buzzer beating 3, or there's how much on the clock?
I think it's 0.7. I don't know if they went back, and they probably went back and rewatched it or whatever. But
yeah.
But let's call it a half a second on the clock to break a tie against in this against Toronto, which the series has been a little bit chippy in the back and forth dialogue between these two teams. A little
bit, and I like the Raptors in 2019 beat those Sixers in Game 7 on a buzzer beating 3. I think that's probably a pretty good feeling for Joel to not because that people don't talk about it, but the Raptors won the title, and the only team that took them to 7 games was the Sixers. Like,
they're this close to a title. So yeah.
Can we parlay this conversation that had no business being a part of the podcast into an actual topic on the podcast?
Sure. What do you want to talk about?
Our inability as people to talk about any of the, like, especially in sports, but lots of things too. Like, all these things are just like, there's different probabilities here, and we assume that the actual result is deterministic of what was always going to happen. And literally, especially stuff like sports, like I mean, that game 7 could have come, like, that could have been a completely different story. And people in hindsight will look back at people like Brady and having 6 titles, or just a number of things that, like, yeah, maybe they were 50% likely, or 60% likely, or 70% likely.
Yep.
But, like, we then assume that because they didn't do it or did do it, like, that is, like, so much. Honestly, that's the thing. If you are, let's say you're just an individual player or individual team who has a 60% chance of winning, and you're another team or another player that has a 40% chance of winning.
Yeah.
If you are the 60% team and you win, then everybody thinks, like, well, of course. Yeah.
Of course they won.
You were the possibly better team, and in history, you will go down as the definite winner of that season. And you were, but also, if the other team would have won, it wouldn't have been like that 40% was wrong. Right. And, like, it is a wild thing to think that, like, that just changes. It changes, I mean, outlook from a historical sports look back perspective, but it also changes, like, literally people's pay and, like, how like teams strategize. I mean, just the fact that Philadelphia didn't win that year. I mean,
talk about Philadelphia like they were a bunch. Like, we talk about the process as if it was a failure, and we particularly talk about Ben Simmons as if he was a failure. But if Kawhi Leonard, not Ben Simmons, if a different player who has nothing to do with Ben Simmons had missed that shot, and then they had gone on to win the series,
which Nick was one of the, if not the most ridiculous, dramatic shots of NBA history. Had that not happened, we would have completely different perspective on all of this.
Right. I like, if you could go back and run 2019 again, and you said, okay, Kawhi's going to miss that shot, and you also got to give it to, like, assume that they lose in overtime or whatever, which isn't a given. It's probably about a coin flip, just as close to a coin flip as you can imagine, because these teams were evenly matched through 7 games until the last shot. But okay, regardless. Okay, so I say the Sixers probably win the championship that year. They probably have the best odds to win the championship, at least, considering that the Bucks were not fully ready, and the Warriors fell apart because of injuries in the finals. So we talk about Simmons right now as if he's a crazy choker. Nobody would talk about him that way if he had won a championship.
Yeah, not even.
Just nobody.
No, and the team would probably still be together. Like, that wouldn't even, like, on the whole NBA would look different, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, especially at the top end. Like, it'd be completely different.
So there's an example that gets called out on podcasts a lot, and I really like it. I apologize for making this too much about basketball for our listeners, but in 2013, the Spurs played the Miami Heat with LeBron James and in the NBA Finals, okay? And in Game 6, there's a very, very iconic shot at the end of the game where Chris Bosh gets a rebound and dishes it out to Ray Allen with, like, moments to go to hit a 3 to send the game to overtime.
Yeah.
Okay? And before this even happened, like, the Spurs were up, like, 5 or something like that with, like, 20 seconds to go, and I think Duncan missed a free throw, and it's the only reason that the game was even that close. I'm forgetting all the details, but basically, like, the odds of them losing from that point, they were up 3-2 in the series. They were up 5 points or so with, like, 30 seconds-ish to go, and 2 miracles happen against in favor of the Heat. They win in overtime. They win in Game 7. I'm not taking anything away from the Heat, okay? And in particular, I'm not taking anything away from the Heat coach, Eric Spoelstra, who is a fantastic coach. I was a believer in, basically from that second season on. Like, I think he adjusted after the first season with LeBron incredibly, yada yada. I think he's a G. Anyways, so there's an article that was written after the series that on ESPN, and I say ESPN because I know that, like, sometimes it's kind of ragged on for being like hot takes and garbage takes and everything. But it is the biggest sports outlet that there is.
I have heard of it,
Yeah. That was Spoelstra outcoaches Greg Popovich, the Spurs coach. If two miracles hadn't happened, the Heat lose 4-2, and nobody says that. You know what I mean? Like, nobody would ever say that if the Heat loses the finals 4-2.
Unless he was like over there burning incense and making goat sacrifices, like I don't think you can call that outcoached.
Right, like, okay, the ball happened to bounce towards Chris Bosh. That's another thing, is like the rebound isn't like just it's not a coaching thing. I mean, there's like an element of coaching to it. People criticize Tim Duncan for not being in, or not Tim Duncan, Popovich for not having Duncan in. Who cares? The rebound is pretty lucky in just the way that it bounces, and then he dishes it out for a miracle shot. Like, I don't know what you want, man. That's not it. Like, I should have predicted the miracle shot, and Spoelstra burned the incense like you said. Like, come on, man. What do you want?
No, it's the same thing in the NFL too. It's like this year having, I mean, honestly, like walking through the playoffs a little bit. So on the AFC side, the Chiefs and Bills had one of the most ridiculous games of all time. The Chiefs got super, super lucky and won. Honestly, this is not to take anything away from the Bengals, because I actually think they probably had, in reality, like a 35 to 45% chance of winning the Super Bowl. I mean, they definitely would have been good. Now, that said, I do think the Bills or the Chiefs could have absolutely like obliterated the Rams in the Super Bowl. Now, the Chiefs got incredibly lucky and also had, really good plays and etc. But like that came down to like literally, honestly, it's not even
insane.
It's not even metaphorically. It literally came down to a coin flip. We got the ball first, went down, scored into the game. So we went, and then let me tell you how I know I was there. Like we just laid up a big stinker against the Bengals, still almost won and didn't. But like honestly, like that, all of those scenarios, like the Bills could have won, the Chiefs could have won, the Bengals could have won. All of those would have not have been like just some crazy thing.
Right.
It just happened to be like
perfectly. This
possible. Is the way that the odds fell, and this is what actually happened. And but like there's no like that will like the poor Bills. The poor Bills were three layers away from winning the Super Bowl in theory, but in reality, they're probably one of the most likely teams on paper. They just happen to have gotten screwed in a very coin flippy type situation.
The hard thing is we as fans need to treat them as if they are every bit as good, deadly, and whatever, while also like, I mean, you should be happy for the teams that won. You should have the appropriate like respect for the teams that won. And like, winning is both luck and also incredibly hard to do. Winning a championship in any sport is just like,
of course,
just miracles have to happen basically. But like, you're completely right. The Bills should just be treated as if they are good enough to win a championship, because obviously they were, or at least that team was. Like, I don't know if anything changes or whatever.
Well, and that's the thing, is like,
what was good enough to win.
What do they need? Or that's always the weird offseason thing, is like, what do they need to do differently to like be competitive next year? And like, frick, like nothing. they need to like flip a coin better. Like they would have won the Super Bowl potentially. So anyways, long way to say, like, I don't know. Yeah, we got here from you getting interrupted, but I am happy to be here. This is the thing that I'm pretty passionate about. Statistics are statistics. Like a 40% thing happening or not happening doesn't mean that it's not, still 40% likely. Like 40% odds of winning a championship is still really flipping good.
I also I'm a weirdo with this, but like I don't think it's like a choke if the team that had a 60% chance to win, like if there's somebody with a slight favorite, I don't think of that as like a choke. You know what I mean?
Like it's a choke if you're like a 98%
sure, or like there's collapses, right? Like, but I don't know, man. Like I don't blame a 1 seed for losing to a 2 seed most of the time. You know what I mean? It's not the end of the like. I don't know. It's not super reflective to me. I don't mean to bring this all back to the NBA, and I don't mean to bring it all back to LeBron, but like, the 2016 Warriors lose to the 2016 Cavs, and for that to happen, the Cavs had to have an insane performance for like 3 games in a row from LeBron and Kyrie, and they deserve every bit of credit for that insane performance, for the comeback, for everything, right? But like, okay, so like the Warriors kind of didn't click for a couple of games, and the Cavs super clicked for a couple of games. That's not the weirdest thing in the world. It's not like the Warriors are all of a sudden like a bad. That might be like too bad of an example because the Warriors were 73-9, like they had the most wins in a regular season ever. So maybe it's like a little bit of too much of a collapse. I don't know. The point is like that can just happen. Like I don't know. There's a 20% odds anytime LeBron steps on the court that he's going to drop 40 points. And if it just happens to happen 2 games in a row, like I don't know, man, you lost. You just lost off 20%. Yeah, like it's just going to happen sometimes.
Yeah, and like that's the sort of thing is like, man, we sure like to like draw such grandiose conclusions. I get it, like it's, that's what sells clicks and attention and etc. But like. Really? I mean, come on. At some point, we need to be a little bit more realistic with how we interpret these sort of things.
I completely agree.
Nick, I have a thing for all of us. So if you're aware, Nick, which I reckon you probably are, on the weeks that we do not do this podcast, we release another podcast. It's a Patreon only podcast.
Oh, no, I hadn't heard of this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, you do show up. I think maybe it's just that I con you into it, and we talk for a while, usually about NBA stuff. Honestly, it all makes a lot of sense. I shouldn't have said all these extra details.
Oh, no.
But anyways, so you can still do that, patreon.com/TitusApp. I will say there might be other secrets brewing. I'll tell you and our listeners about what that might be, just as a thing. But that coming down the road. We'll see. But anyways, patreon.com/TitusApp for the time being. We'll see.
Yeah. And you can follow us at TitusApp on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And you can find all of that at TitusApp.com.
Nicholas, thank you for potting with me. It's been a good time. Well, off topic, but good time.
Yes. You're welcome. This has been the year we started the podcast. Thank you all for listening.